Both the Rebel Alliance and the Confederacy of Independent Systems occupied a similar role within the galaxy, opposing the dominant galactic government of their era. The primary difference was that the CIS was created and manipulated by Palpatine, and was thus largely discarded at the end of the war. However, although the Separatist movement was artificially created, there were still many who were unhappy with the Republic and thus continued with the secessionist cause after the formation of the Empire. Most Separatist splinter and holdout groups were dealt with during the reconquest of the Outer Rim. As an example, Mareth Voru, who refused to recognize the nationalization of the Trade Federation, was defeated by an Imperial task force. Tarkin, Dodonna, Screed, and Yularen led campaigns against pirates and Separatist remnants alike, including the remaining parts of Grievous's personal forces. However, while this was happening, many of the former enemies of the Separatists, the Senators of the Republic, also opposed new Imperial rule. Although rebel groups had been resisting the New Order since its establishment, the actual alliance was not established until 2 BBY, with the signing of the Corellian Treaty. The main goal of the treaty, besides creating a structure for the alliance, was the unification of enemies to the Empire and existing rebellion cells. However, another one of Mon Mothma's goals was to show that the Empire was an illegitimate state and that the Republic had to be properly restored. For that reason, she preferred to avoid appearing like a second Separatist faction, which would make the Empire seem like a legitimate government. Bel Iblis, another one of the Alliance founders, wasn't as concerned about this, and believed that remaining Separatist forces should be integrated into the Alliance itself, so long as they didn't commit war crimes during the Clone Wars. Bail Organa, the third and final signatory, somewhat sided with Mothma and saw that the inclusion of Separatists would be antithetical to an organization with the goal of restoring the Republic. The three founders, and thus the Alliance itself, came to a compromise. Former Separatists could formally join the growing Rebel Alliance so long as they promised to submit to the leadership of Mon Mothma, had not committed any war crimes, and formally disavowed their past. Many chose to do so, including Horn Ambigine and the Brix Freedom Fighters, while others were unable or unwilling to join the growing faction. However, even when the two sides couldn't formally join as one, Separatist and Rebel cells typically still worked together, as really they were sharing a mutual goal. Now, all of this information is legends, but we do see something similar in canon with characters like Cassian Andor, who had served the Confederacy before joining the Alliance. And on that note, in Legends 2, it's quite likely that there were many within the CIS, whether civilians or military officials, who didn't formally oppose the Empire under the CIS banner after the end of the Clone Wars and just joined the Alliance whenever they got the chance. However, there's not a lot of information about those people, and we can just assume that generally they had to follow the same rules as Separatist holdouts. On a different note, sometimes Separatists helped the Alliance without really meaning to. There were several droid armies across the galaxy which, for whatever reason, did not respond to the Master Shutdown Code from Mustafar. Generally, these forces would attack anyone who approached them, Imperial or Rebel alike. One of the largest pockets of active droids was on Geonosis, and they showed almost no discretion with who they attacked. Back to canon now, Rebels shows us one of these groups. However, the Alliance and even Captain Rex was able to convince the droids to join forces, though only for one battle. Finally, I'd like to take a quick look at military assets, everything from droids to starfighters to capital ships. We know the Empire nationalized the corporations and elements of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and thus claimed any droids they wanted. Many were just destroyed, some were sent off to secret locations, others actually entered battle. However, some things slipped through their fingers, and the Alliance secured many CIS capital ships. The first attack on the Death Star was led by the Fortressa, a Lucrehulk battleship. Other examples include Rebel 1, a modified Providence destroyer, and the other Munificent, Providence, and other CIS ships that made up much of the non-Mon Calamari cruisers in the Alliance Navy. It's totally unclear whether these ships came with a droid crew, whether they were bought, found, discovered, or otherwise gifted to the Alliance, but we do know they saw action. It's been said that the Alliance also used some of the tanks and perhaps even larger battle droids of the CIS, but unfortunately for them, it seems like they were unable to secure any major droid armies or foundries. So that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and learned something you didn't know before. Today's question of the day comes from Sigilstone17, who asks, are you ever going to do more factions compared? I get questions like this a lot. Really, I move between my main series all the time. Sometimes I'll have a few months where factions compared represents most of my content. Months like this, I do a lot of lore videos with a focus on military analysis and deep dives. Sometimes I'll focus on verses. It really depends on how I'm feeling about making a certain type of video, and also importantly, what you guys seem to want. Not only what you're telling me you want, but also unfortunately, as YouTube demands, what you guys are actually watching. So yes, I will return to factions compared. Eventually, I'll try to have a more balanced schedule, but that's just how I do things now. Great question though. If you guys have something you'd like to ask, make sure to leave it down below with the hashtag AskEck. Till next time guys, this has been your host EckhartsLadder. Thanks again for watching. Hope you had a great weekend. May the Force be with you.